Mixed-race relationships generally, especially as two of our panel are here in just that situation. In fact, the number of mixed-race couples has increased steadily over the last 15 years, to the point where the Institute for Social and Economic Research came to the conclusion that Britain has the highest rate of interracial relationships in the world, 10 times above the European average. Why is that? Is love colourblind? Or do cultural differences eventually come between you? Perhaps you would consider dating someone of a different colour, but not of a different religion. What would your family say or do if you were in a mixed-race romance? So, well, before we hear what the panel...
Yes.
Mixed-race... Why is Britain so good at mixed-race relationships?
I just think we've got such a fantastic choice out there. There are just so many people. You know, and you know, we've got so much more freedom than we ever had before, and we're just as likely to fall in love with somebody from a different background.
But we really are. I mean, Britain, if you look at the statistics, we are miles out in front. Well, why is it Britain?
We've got a tradition of liberalism and tolerance and a spirit of adventure and a bit of eccentricity, and, you know, because we've got the opportunity, and it's fantastic. That's what I think.
Any problems?
Well, you know, when I started going out with Dennis, who at the time was, you know, had long rasta locks and everything and didn't look anything like the nice Jewish doctor that I used to be married to, my father said, "Your life is over. No Jewish man will ever marry you now." And I said, "Dad, you were born in Lewisham. Why are you talking like Topple in Fiddler on the Roof?" You know, it was not what I was supposed to do, you know, but as all those people just said on the film, you know, when you love someone, you love them. And it wasn't because he was black, it was because he was him.
Okay, yeah, no, I accept that,
you know?
absolutely, and that makes perfect sense, but I wonder, I kept making reference to relatives, family.
Yeah.
What two people do between each other, that's always their business. It's when other people chip in with their views. So, yeah, I mean, you mentioned your father there. Other grief from relatives and friends or not?
I think amazement, and then, of course, you know, obviously the charm and the humour and the personality that captivated me within seconds wins through. And so whatever, you know, ridiculous prejudice might exist before, you can dispel it really quite quickly just by, you know, exposing somebody to the company and the, you know, the influence of somebody else. And I think it's the best possible thing for my kids.
Do you think you'd be saying the same thing if you lived in, I don't know, Norfolk, for example, where I lived, where there aren't a lot of black people around?
Good Lord, having seen the people in Norfolk, I think they need a great influx of as many different cultures as possible, as quickly as possible. Stop all that inbreeding, that's what we need to do.
Oh, Vanessa. Now, Carrie, you and David have been, what, nearly, unbelievably, 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. And
so you must have seen how things have changed in this country as well.
I mean, I was amazed when I first met David, how kind of the racist situations that he had to take in every single day was just incredible. I was stunned by that. But us as a couple, we have never had any problems, really. We had a couple of months with my parents just before we got married, but then they were very nice after 2 months and said sorry that we had those views. And again, they lived in a little town.
Fear? Are we talking about fear?
Yeah, we're talking about fear, but I think two people can be passionate about their own cultures, be together and share that passion. I love David's West Indian culture. It's fantastic. However, if people are passionate about their religions, I think that is a bigger problem, because if you are fastidiously into something and your partner is fastidiously into something else, that is an issue. But cultures, no. I love West Indian food. I love West Indian humour. I love sitting in David's family home and everyone shouting and singing and speaking and laughing, and it's so loud. In my house, there was silence when I was growing up.
I must ask as well, because of the length of time you've experienced here, why is Britain so good at mixed-race relationships? 10 times higher than Europe. #1 in the world.
Well, I think some of it, I mean, it's funny because I think for me, I have to separate, there's black Africans, black West Indians. That's two different cultures. Very different cultures. There's a bigger difference between West Indian culture and white English, like myself, to a Nigerian culture. But I think, certainly in London, we have so many different cultures that actually it's become such a mishmash that we have all become a little bit of a lot of cultures. The Jewish culture, fantastic culture.
Well, that's how loud it is in our house. but I would say, though, that you do realise the difference when you go abroad together. Because, you know, we touched down in France, and it's only across the channel, and my goodness, the difference, the looks, the sort of aversion, you know, Dennis being stopped as we come out of department stores, that kind of thing, people assuming you're not together. We went to a nightclub in Paris, and I thought, what's weird about this place? I was looking around, what's strange? I realised there's not one black person in the whole place. And I said, where are all the black guys? And they said, oh, they have their own place. And I thought, my God, and that is so different from England, isn't it?
Do you think for the two of you, though, because you both live in London, that we're in a very cosmopolitan society?
I think the whole of the UK is cool, extremely
Okay, well, you'd agree with that as well?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know why, though. I don't know why that is.
I'm actually quite surprised to hear that from both of you. I really am. Let's throw it open to you at home and find out if that's also the case and why you may think that Britain is so good at mixed-race relationships.
There are parts in Sheffield that aren't so cool about it. I know that. Let's go to Jessica from Hertfordshire on line 2.
Thanks, Corinne. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning.
Far away, mixed-race relationships. What's your views?
I think England is a really great place to be if you're in a mixed relationship.
What about Wales and Scotland?
I wouldn't know. I mean, I grew up in New York, and I think being there as well, it was very different there. Yeah. I mean, there weren't as many mixed relationships when I was growing up. But in England, when I first met my husband, I mean, he'd never really encountered many Asian people before, so it was quite different for him as well. But he had such an open mind, and I think English people do have very open minds about different cultures because they're so exposed to it as well. And I think that just made it easy right from the go.
Let's touch on that for a minute. You say we're so exposed to it. I find New York's an amazing mix of different, not just colours, but different, different races all from around the world. Everybody's there in a melting pot. But you said it yourself. There's not so much interracial romance going on, but there is in Britain. And
there is. I think because in New York it's such a large population as well. There's so many people from so many different places, and they all tend to come they all tend to sort of migrate to certain areas. And then it becomes like a little India here, a little China here. So they become enveloped in their own little communities again. And even where I come from in Gibraltar as well, my family lived there. It's a very enveloped culture as well in the Asian society. So it just becomes like it is everywhere else.
All right, Jessica.
But in England, in London especially, it's so integrated. It's a small place, and people do really get to find out about each other.
Okay, Jessica. I always look forward to finding out about other people. Thank you very much for the call. Let's have another one, please.
Let's go to Phil from London on line 4.
Thank you very much. Phil, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My comment was, I'm from America. I've been living in the UK for 3 years. I go home quite frequently, and then I come back pretty much. And I've been dating a white lady here, and what I see is, even though Britain is very advanced when it comes to interracial relationships, the availability of them, still society does not accept people in the same way. And I find this when you go on the trains, when you're on the tube, people just say things out loud. Now, I know that there were certain places in America that I went to that were, in fact, very, very, very racist and very blatant about it. But what gets me here is that there are people in the panel saying that everything is fantastic and it's wonderful, when in fact it's not, and there are many instances of this every single day.
I just wondered, Phil, because I've heard this from friends from America that live over here at the moment, whether or not, as you've been here for 3 years, which kind of ties in with the post-September the 11th, then moving into Iraq, is whether or not you're actually picking up anti-American hostility rather than...
No, that's not it whatsoever, because even if people don't see you, I knew you were going to say that. Even if people don't ever talk to you, they see you in, say, a mixed-race relationship. You get the stares, the jeers. You get people saying awful things to you. I mean, it got to a point...
Where are you, Phil, where this is happening?
Where am I? I'm in London, thank you very much.
I'm absolutely amazed.
Yeah. Oh, you're amazed? Well, I would put it to you to go out one day in a relationship with two people, walk behind them and see the reactions that they get, because some of my own friends are very appalled, and by the way, they're white. And I've also got a lot of Asian friends, just to tell you, and they have told me themselves that they would never, ever consider dating outside of their race for any reason whatsoever, because they'd be ostracized in their communities.
I think there's no doubt that this does happen.
Of course.
There is definitely a problem with racism. What we were saying is, in our experience, we hadn't experienced that. Many people do. I've got friends who live in Milton Keynes who've been chased through shopping centres because they're in mixed-race relationships. There's no doubt that it goes on. That isn't...
It's just your experience has been, by and large, very good.
On the tube. I go on the tube with David all the time. Never in 18 years ever had that.
There's a difference here between society in general and how they view it. And say, for example, that the gentleman was talking about those communities, and I think that is another issue. Yeah. When you marry outside your community, I think that's different to how society in general.
Okay, got a job in there because time runs on. It was extraordinary call, and thanks for that one, Phil, as well. Put the cat amongst the pigeons. I only mention the anti-American hostility because I keep meeting people from Canada as well who walk around everywhere with massive maple leaves because they say it's the only way they can stop getting abused for being American. So it's clearly going on. I'm just glad you haven't experienced it. Now.